All right, so here I have a Zap that's live and running on Zapier. It's fairly complex. It's pretty straightforward, not too bad. So what exactly is this doing? Um, I'm going to just run through this really quickly and then go actually show you how it really works. So there is a webhook on Zapier, which is a paid-for feature. You have to have a paid account to do this. The webhook is just basically sitting there waiting for data to be passed to it. Okay. Once this webhook gets the data, it creates a card on Trello. So on a Trello board, if you don't know what that is, you'll see what it is in a minute here. It takes that information out of the data that was passed to the webhook. It then parses out the email address. There's a field email, so it's not very difficult. It then sends that email address to a mailing list, which is basically a webhook. It's a URL that accepts email addresses. It passes that email address to that URL, and then there is a Boolean in that data, so yes or no, on or off, that asks them a question. If they answered yes to it, so it's true, I then take some of that information and stick it in a Google Sheet, okay? That part's not super interesting. It just takes a few of those fields and passes it off and inserts it into a sheet. If they said no, if that Boolean was false, just nothing happens and it ends there. Okay? Fairly straightforward, not too difficult, but this is a paid for Zap. Like you cannot do something even this complex, which I don't even think is super complex. You can't even do this without having a paid account, and I don't want to pay anymore. So I'm going to replace this Zap with n8n, and I'll show you how to do that. What is this thing doing? Why do I have this set up? Okay, so I have a daily newsletter that sends you art every day. It's free. Hey, if you like art, sign up. The URL is randomdailyart.com. If you're into art, sign up today. If not, no worries. Don't worry about it. So how this works is artists can actually come and submit art to the page, okay? Let's say you're an artist, you want to get your art out there, you want to be featured in the newsletter. You go to this page, you fill out your name, your email address, what country you're from, and this is that Boolean question. It's a yes or no thing, like, hey, would you be interested in maybe selling your art in the future one day? If they say yes and it's true, remember some of that information gets thrown into an Excel sheet or Google Sheets. So they add a little bio, talk about themselves, they say yes, I agree. They submit their art here, okay? So they upload a picture and they just type in like a title or a name of that art. They hit send. I won't go into the backend portion of like how the backend sends this to the webhook. That's not important. What's important is they fill out this page, they hit submit, that data gets passed along to the Zap, to the webhook, and then a card gets created on Trello. So let me just show you that. This is my Trello board. I don't really care if you see what's on here. Who cares? Just some ideas, some stuff I'm working on. Not a big deal. But what's really cool is here are actual artists that submitted art. I'm not going to click in there because there is a little bit of personal information, but basically you could see that there's real pieces of art, like they're actually using it. I showed you all of the data that gets put in there. We have another Zap, which I won't get into in this video, that I could actually close this. I could archive it. I could click archive and it goes and actually deletes that art that's saved on the server. My thinking was I would like move the card over and it would like automatically add it to the website. It would automatically add it to my queue of art. I haven't done that yet, but I probably will soon. Maybe I'll do a video on that, we'll see. But anyways, this is actually working quite nicely right now. I'm quite happy with it, but I'm not happy with paying Zapier money every month to do this. So here we go. We're going to actually create this in n8n. Let's begin. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go here to create a new node, go to trigger, add a webhook node. Okay, so authentication. Personally, I don't add any authentication because this is just like running on a random server with, like, as you can see, a totally randomly generated long string. Technically, anybody can submit data to this. I'm not worried. I don't care. This isn't super, top secret stuff. Add authentication if you want. Okay, so let's go ahead and add that. Now we are going to add a Trello node. So you, of course, have to authenticate with Trello. Go ahead and create new credentials here. Let's just name it Trello, really straightforward. Okay, so n8n has documentation on how to do this, pretty straightforward. You go to this URL here, Trello API-key. I'll save you the trouble. This is not real. These are not real working keys, so don't, I'll save you the energy if you want to try to use them. They're not real. Okay, so it's really straightforward. You go here, copy your key, go down here, copy the OAuth, and this is a little less straightforward, but you have to go here, click token, click allow. Okay, so again, this isn't a real key, so don't even bother. So here is the API token. Okay, so go ahead and just give it access like this. Okay, the credentials have been added. Now we actually need to create the card. So what do we need in order to create a card? So you need the list ID. What the hell is a list? So this is a Trello board, and each one of these is a list. So I want to add a card here in user submitted art list. How do you get that list ID? It was a pretty cool trick. You just simply add .json to the end of the URL, and it shows you all the JSON or the data that's being used for that page. This is a pretty neat convention. Many other websites are doing this more and more. Reddit, GitHub. It's a pretty cool little convention. I'm a big fan of that. So look for a property called list. Pretty straightforward. There we go. So here is my list that I want to create the card on. Let me get that ID. Pop it into here. Make sure there's no spaces or anything weird. Okay, so name. What is the name that I'm using? Basically, just the artist name. Pretty straightforward. So go ahead and add an expression. Now, to actually go see your data, to actually play around with this, you have to send the webhook data. So let's do that first. Send it real data. Make sure you actually hit play, or you'll send this thing data and nothing will ever happen. Okay, so let's go back and get so this is not production, quote unquote production, because I haven't actually activated this workflow. So go ahead and go to test. Okay, now I had to explain this. So right now I am running this on a box on my local network, okay? Meaning there's a little server running on my local network that I'm on in my house. That's why this URL, this is not a public URL, okay? It's stephenpc.local. That is not accessible anywhere around the world on the internet. So that's not gonna actually resolve to a real working URL. It does when I'm on my network here at my house. So how the hell can this webhook receive data from anywhere in the world when this is a local network address. So what I'm using is I'm using something called a tunnel, a local tunnel. Okay. So by turning on this tunnel and pointing it at n8n on that box, it gives me this URL. So all I do is I use the URL / webhook tests, blah, 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 and I can actually send data via this tunnel to this URL, and it actually sends it to n8n on this local box. Pretty neat trick, but one very, very important thing to keep in mind. I'm doing this only right now for testing and showing you how this works. This is not how I have this actually set up because it's quite insecure. Don't do this. Don't do it the right way. I'm not going to go over that in this video. I think an entire video should be dedicated towards that, but I just want to explain like how this weird local URL is actually working. How am I actually sending data to this? There are right ways to do this. The way I run n8n is on a actual real server. It has a dedicated domain name, a dedicated box. It's locked down as much as I humanly possibly can lock it down. I'm sure it's not 100% locked down. I'm sure there's maybe a hole or two in how I have it set up. Hopefully not, but it's much more secure than doing it this way. It's very popular to and common to run n8n self-hosted, like on a little server in your house, or Synology is very common. This is a very common way to run it, but there's proper ways to actually do that. I'll put some documentation in the video. I won't go over that in this video, so just keep that in mind. Don't do it this way. Anyways, I went ahead and set up the back end of my site to send to that tunneled URL. So let's actually send it data. Let's make sure that this is still, no, why did it stop? Okay. Okay, so this should have gotten the data. Wait for it. Okay. There was quite a lag there, but I think that's because there's a tunnel and it's not like actually, like I said, a real server, but that's okay. It worked. So if you come here and you look and you click on JSON, you can see all the data that the backend from my site sent. Okay, so now what we could do is we can go here to the Trello card and you can see your data. So now what we could do is, this is buggy at times. There's my JSON. There we go. There's all the data. So what do we want? The name to be first and last name. Let's do that. There's a name field though. There is. I didn't know that. Okay, that works. So that's the name. We want to actually add an expression. So what do I want? Okay, let's do the name again. I want to do first and last. I don't really trust that name field. Then I want it to show the email. This is my email. Please don't spam me. That is my actual email address. You can email me if you want, but please don't spam me. Okay, I want to see their bio, to see, oh, I just found a bug. It's not actually sending you your nationality. Okay, that's good to know. Software development in real life. Okay, so I want to see the art that you sent. Okay. So what I'm actually doing here is on this Trello board is I go and I like look at your art, like if you're an artist and you send it, and I just simply look at, number one, I look at the picture and I find art that I like. And then what I do is I copy this URL and I stick that into the like CMS system, and that automatically will send out the art. Like it'll take the art from that URL, stick it in the email. So it's all quite automated, but I have to go like look at the Trello, get the relevant information, copy and paste it into the CMS. So this is kind of the whole purpose of this board. So I want to see like your name, your email, your bio. I could put that in copy and paste that information into the CMS, and that's kind of like the whole purpose of this is just like quickly see that data that I could copy and paste, and everything just happens automatically. Okay, I think that's good. Minus that bug that I found. I'll fix that later. Okay, so now we have, I think we have enough data. Let's actually create a card. Says that it works. Did it work? Yeah. Okay. It worked, but we need to add a few more fields here. So what are the... here we go. So I want the card to be created, but I want it to be created at the top of the stack, the list here. There we go. Okay. That's looking good, except for now I want the actual picture to show up. So how do we do that? So going back to Zapier, so yes, there's the top. Okay, so with my Zapier, I can just simply plug in those fields and the art actually shows up. It's added as a URL attachment. So with n8n, fortunately, you have to do a few more steps to actually do that. So let's do that now. We don't want to create a card. We want to create an attachment. What do we want to do? We want to create one. What is the card ID? So go into here, expression, nodes, Trello, output. There's the ID. Source URL. What is source URL? Source URL is this. I want all the art, I want all those URLs to be added as an attachment. So you go to the webhook. There we go. So let's try that. Now let's try. Okay, success. So boom. So now that's added as an attachment. Like I said, look how much easier it was in Zapier. You just simply add the fields and boom, it's done. But unfortunately, you have to do it this way. You have to go and create an attachment for each one. Yep, kind of sucks. I'll be completely honest with you. This needs a little bit more polishing, but it's free. Like I'm running this for free. So I could pay Zapier $25 a month, or I can pay nothing and add a few more steps to my workflow. I'll pick that one. Plug in the ID. Data, file 2. So boom, there are now two pictures. So as I said, like as a user of this, I simply click in here and I can quickly see the art that people submitted and decide which one I want to actually add to my newsletter. Okay, so that works, but unfortunately, so a quicker way to do this is to actually duplicate it. So you look at that. Everything's filled out. It's much nicer. That's filled out already. We need to change this to 3. Now, why is it saying not found? Because when I actually sent data to this webhook, there wasn't a third file. There was only 2. So that's why it says that, but this will work. However, we need to do a little bit more, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we actually need to add logic. So we don't want this to run because look, if we just replay this whole thing, look what happens. Didn't actually do it. But what will happen is it's not actually going to, it's going to fail because there isn't this actual property. So unfortunately, we had to do a little bit more. So go ahead and let's move things out a little bit like this. You have to add what we call an if node. What is an if node? Basically, you just say, if this, do this. Pretty straightforward. So what are we going to check for? Well, I'm going to be a little crafty and just, the logic is going to be if it's a URL. So I'm just going to do a real basic simple check if the string contains HTTP, then it's true. And if there really is that string in there, then go make the first one. Oops. It is a little tedious, but that's because, as I said, really it comes down to, you know, this Trello integration just needs a little bit more polished. And this is actually open source. You can go and make those changes yourself. Unlike with Zapier, that's just a closed source proprietary suite of software that, you know, they're not going to just accept you going to them and being like, hey, can I make this change? No, of course not. And that's the nice thing about n8n is that it actually is the source is on GitHub. You can go file the pull request and make these changes. Why isn't this moving? So unfortunately, I notice it is a little bit buggy at times, moving things around. Okay, so here we go. Let's double check this. Nope. This is 1. Okay. 1. Okay. So now it checks to see if there was 3 pieces of art submitted. If it was, then go ahead and create the card and add each piece of art that was submitted as an attachment. Okay? Let's try this again. I have to resend. I have to submit the whole thing over again. Okay, let's move on. So we just did this part, okay, of replacing this entire Zap. We create a card on the Trello board. We add attachments. It's sitting at the top. I think we've sufficiently replaced this Zap, okay? Now, let's move on to the next part. What's the next part? To make an HTTP request and pass off that email to my mailing list. Because the idea is, let's say an artist comes to the page and they add art. Well, I want to then subscribe them to the mailing list if they aren't subscribed. If they are, nothing, the backend handles that for the mailing. The mailing list, it just ignores it as a duplicate. Nothing happens, it's fine. But I want to ensure that the artist gets added to the list. So if they weren't on there, which actually surprisingly happens quite often, that way they could actually get the email with their art in it and see their art in the mailing list. So let's do that step. That's pretty easy. So we're just gonna go from the webhook to do an HTTP request. And what are we gonna do? We're going to post that email. Okay. Now, of course, you kind of have to know exactly how to send your data, and that could be a little tricky for beginners. I'm a developer, so I set all of this up myself, so I know exactly. But this might be a little tricky. You're gonna have to play around and figure out exactly how where you're sending your data, how it needs you to actually send and do your post request. I know that it's actually a body parameter, and I know it's email, and so this is frustrating. n8n just like will randomly bug out and it stops showing you this. That's so frustrating. Again, you know, this is new software that is it's a work in progress, but as I said, it's free. Damn it. So that's real frustrating that it does that. Okay, well, I know that will work, so that's okay. I actually think that comes back as a string, but let's see what happens. I'm going to save this, reload, because sometimes it just gets in a weird state where you just need to refresh things. See, look at that. Okay. And unfortunately, when you do reload everything, it loses that data, so you have to resend the data. Yep, kind of sucks. I'll be honest with you. There was a problem. It's saying nothing. Strange. See what I mean? It just bugs out. What the hell is going on here? Crap. Okay, well, how the hell do I kill that? That's so strange because it's just. So you go here to actually see anything, any processes that are running, but it doesn't say anything is running. So strange. Okay, let's try this. Yes, activate. Strange. Okay, whatever. Seems to be working now. Yeah? No? At least n8n seems to be heavily worked on, so I do think bugs like this will be worked out more and more. I mean, I'm confident enough in that to personally use this, so I'm not too worried. I think they'll figure it out. And honestly, I'm probably a few versions behind, so I think if I were to update, download the newer version and update it, it probably would work. Okay, let's hope this works. Yes, no. So strange. Okay, so it's being so buggy. That's frustrating. All the things I like. I don't know why it's really bugging out on me. I might need to kill everything and let's see if this works. Okay. So that worked. So if you get stuck in that state, do what I did, activate it and turn it off. Okay. So everything ran okay. This actually got sent. That is a success. It actually did return a string. I was right. My card was created. All of the art was attached. But what went wrong? Something went wrong. Always test. If 1, 3, 3, okay, what happened here? File 1, File 1, file 3, not right, huh? Yeah. Okay. There. Now, all of that just to do this part. As I said, Zapier is a bit more polished, as you could clearly see. But look at this. For free, I have this thing. I'm replacing Zapier, the whole flow. So now we're almost done. Not too bad. Once you get used to this, you can do this much faster, I promise. Okay, so now we did all of this. Now the fun part, integrating with Google. So one last step. If okay, if we have this flag, a boolean, basically, if they agreed to be contacted later if we open up selling art on the site, we need to go and stick their data into a Google Sheet. So now I'm going to show you how to integrate Google services basically, and we'll actually add a node to do that. First things first, add a if node. It's a little funky because this is not, it's actually a string. It's not saying if true or false. It's a little weird, but that's fine. I was wrong. Not agree. It is cells. There we go. So this is the way the data sends it. Yes, kind of annoying, but that's okay. I would much rather just do true. Okay. If this equals yes. Now, and I also hate how, look at this, how it sticks it on there. It is so wonky. What the fuck? Look how it does this. Not good. Like this. What the heck? I'm not a fan of that. Okay. Okay. Remember, if it's no, nothing happens. Just ends there. Everything else will work its way through the workflow, and I only care about true. Sheets. Now the fun part, adding your Google credentials. Here we go. Here, let's actually look at the documentation. Yeah, so here we go. There's a video, it shows you what to do. It's not too bad. I'm going to skip this part and follow the video, follow the steps. All right, so assuming you got your credentials set up, first you actually have to use the set node to massage all of that data, put it in a set, and it basically format the data in a nice way that you can hand it off to the Google Sheets node and it can plug that data in. So first you have to do a set. Now let's pop back over here to Zapier. There's my if logic. So let's see here. Yes, it's a little bit nicer, but I don't think this is too bad. Like you set up your if logic, you're set, not too bad. So let's go ahead and do this. So what do we want here? We want first name. Last name. So for this set, the names have to match a column header name in your Google Sheet. You'll see that in a second. I find it's much easier just to do that. Okay. What else? We have the email. I wish it remembered. Email. And finally, the bio. A bit tedious. Data. Bio. Boom. Is that it? Yes, that's it. Yes, of course. Okay, go like this. I like to try to keep it together as much as possible. Okay, so I went ahead and just filled out this information, okay? This is the ID of the Google Sheet. So you just go on the, go actually look at the sheet in the browser. And as you can see here, you simply take that ID that's in the URL and you stick it in here. And as I said, your property names have to match the actual, the columns in the sheet. And this is very important. You have to go to value input mode. You have two options. You have raw or user entered. So select user enter and boom, you're done. So now let's run everything and let's see it in action. Okay. Card got created. All of my pictures I uploaded are there. I have the names, the URLs, my bio. Still need to fix that bug I found. Okay, that worked. Good. I actually went and cleaned this up, reformatted it, put it very nicely. Everything should be working. And then now the final test. Yes, it got added. Okay, so there we have it. I replaced this entire Zap workflow. I don't know, what do you call this? Each one is a Zap. So I created this entire Zapier workflow in n8n. Everything is working. As you can see, it's fairly complex. It is, I think it's not that bad. Fairly complex, but it could be worse. But there you have it. It's done. I can now go ahead to Zapier and kill this. This is now working. This is real life. I went to the actual website. This workflow on my n8n server is running live. Everything is working. So there you have it. If you are interested in doing more automation like this, please check out my course. There's a link down in the description. I hope this is useful. Tell me what you think. If there's something else you want a video on for automating, please drop it down in the comments. Let me know. I can add it to my course. The course is going to be constantly added to as time goes on. So I hope that helps you. I hope you're able to go replace Zapier and do this for free. As you can see, it's just takes a little bit of time. Once you set up the credentials, it's only done once. And once you start using this, you really start adding more workflows very rapidly. I promise. It's not too bad. So hope that helps.